Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, it's Ray. In this video, I will be exploring Nurse's add-ons. I will be putting them in a ranking system all the way from F tier to S tier, S being the best, and F being the worst. I want to help you guys understand how some of these add-ons work, as they can be quite complicated, what add-ons are the best, and what add-ons you should be using if you are newer to Nurse. Later in the video, I will be telling you guys which ones you should use, which combos are the best, which combos are the best for good players, and what combos are best for newer players. Nurse can be an incredibly strong character. Normally, I don't even use add-ons on her because her base kit is so strong. Her ability to subvert loops, pallets, walls, it just makes her such an amazing killer and so strong, and in the right hands, she can be the strongest killer in the game. I'll be placing all these tiers into chapters for you guys, so you can see them in the progress bar below if you would like to skip ahead to different tiers, or maybe you want to skip to the end to see what you should be running if you're newer to Nurse or if you're having trouble deciding. Let's get started. So the first add-on that I'm going to start off this tier list with is the Dull Bracelet. So what this add-on does is it increases blood points for precise blink score events by 100%, but it decreases your maximum blink range. So I don't think I really need to explain why this one is an F tier, it's just bad. All it does is hinder you from more blood points. It takes away 4 meters from your max blink range for blood points that actually hit a cap. Now, if you're playing Nurse, you really should be hitting this blood point cap every single game because Nurse is so reliant on her power. So it doesn't even increase the amount of blood points that you get at the end if you were to just play her normally. There are add-ons like this for a bunch of killers. For example, Trapper has an add-on called the Padded Jaws, where if a survivor gets trapped in a bear trap, they don't get injured. If they're already healthy, they can just escape and then walk on their merry way if you don't come over there and pick them up out of the trap. I don't need a huge explanation as to why this add-on is in F tier. It's just bad. All it does is hinder you just for more blood point gain in a category that inevitably gets capped at 8,000 points. The next add-on is the White Knit Comb. This add-on increases blood points for blink attack score events by 100%, but it decreases your post-blink lunge range. Again, this is just like the Padded Jaws for Trapper. Just like the Dull Bracelet, it's just a bad add-on. All it does is hinder you for blood points. This one is actually the worst of the two because it practically takes away your lunge. All you can do is just smack. You have to blink right on top of somebody. Again, I'm not gonna go too far into why this add-on is just bad. It's just hinders you. It doesn't do anything else. It doesn't enhance you. It just makes your power worse. Okay, moving on. Now, this is one of the most disappointing add-ons that Nurse has. It's the ultra rare add-on, the Matchbox. What this add-on does is it increases your movement speed to 4.2 meters per second, but it removes one of your blinks. If you guys didn't know, Nurse's base movement speed is actually slower than Survivor's. With this, it makes you a tad bit faster than Survivor's. Survivor movement is 4.0 meters per second. The slower killers in the game, Huntress, Hag, Spirit, they move at 4.4 meters per second. This one is still really terrible because you are slower than those slower killers who have a really strong power to compensate for their movement speed. Hag has traps, Spirit has the ability to phase, Huntress has a long-ranged attack. But with this add-on, you're still not even as fast as them and you only have one blink. You might think to yourself, I still have the ability to go through walls, albeit only one charge. However, it is not strong enough and good players will be able to juke you for that one blink for a significant amount of time before you can get a hit. The buff to where movement speed is so minimal and it does not compensate for that cut to your power. Normally you need both those blinks to be able to catch good survivors or even decent survivors. So just having one blink while still being slower than the slow killers is not helpful at all. This add-on is mostly just a meme. Maybe you can combo it with chase perks or make your favorite streamers suffer by making them play this. It's a very disappointing add-on because it's one of Nurse's ultra rare add-ons. It's one of the most rare, but it's all the way down here in F tier where it's just awful. It's not very good. Don't run this add-on unless you're trying to make someone suffer. If I had to sum up all the add-ons in F tier, just don't look at them. Don't even think about looking at them. So let's move on to the next tier, the D tier. Starting off our D tier list, we have the Anxious Gasp. Blinking past a survivor causes them to scream and awards 200 blood points in the deviousness category. So this add-on it's pretty much okay. It's like the White Knit Comb in the fact that it just gives you more blood points in a category that maxes out at 8,000. So this add-on isn't F tier, it isn't bad, it doesn't reduce your ability to play Nurse, But sometimes when you blink past a survivor, the scream animation would take priority over some other animations, such as dead hard. So if you blinked through a survivor and you're having a hard time catching them and they're just a little tricky, they could dead hard, but you wouldn't really be able to tell because the dead hard animation would be taken over by the scream animation, and it would just seem that they would go past you fast. So it actually could be a detriment to your power because you won't know that they already used their dead hard. And again, the blood point cap really will fill if you play Nurse normally, since she's so heavily reliant on her power, or at least it should. You should be blinking and you should be hitting survivors with those blinks. You can go ahead and use this add-on, but like I said, it might confuse you if it's used to cancel dead hard animations. The next add-on on our tier list is the Spasmodic Breath. Hitting a blink attack will disable the nurse's ability to blink and increases her movement speed to 4.6 meters per second for 60 seconds of use time. What this add-on does is if you blink and you hit a survivor, it transforms you into a regular 4.6 meters per second killer. The same speed as Trapper, Wraith, Hillbilly, the normal speed killers. So it just takes away your power as the nurse and makes you a regular M1 killer. That's it. It's not super terrible considering just being a regular M1 killer. You still can kill people with doing this, but you could just go play a different killer if you want to use this add-on. This add-on is basically just Mimi because then survivors don't expect it and you could probably get a hit on them like that. But as soon as you activate this, good survivors will know that now you're just a regular killer and they'll just play and loop you normally like a Ghostface or Myers. So because it doesn't actually hurt you, you can still kill people as a 4.6 meter per second regular killer. It's not in the F tier, but it's still a bad add-on. Just go play a different killer if you want to use this. The next add-on is called Jenner's Last Breath. After blinking, it allows the nurse to immediately blink back to her original position by pressing the active ability button. This has to be done before you go into fatigue. So I find this add-on to be just quite useless. I've played a game and there was not a time that I felt I really needed to use it. You have two blinks for a reason, like just turn and blink back to that location. I actually found it was more disorienting to use this add-on to not, because it forces you back and maybe you don't exactly remember where you were, and it's not as precise as if you were just using your second blink to get to where you needed to go. Also, your first blink is way farther than your second blink, so maybe you're not used to it, your muscle memory can be all messed up with this, and the survivors probably won't make that much distance. I didn't find a single time that I felt like I got good use out of this. I would just go out of my way to try to find good spots. It wasn't really great in normal gameplay, just use a better add-on. The last add-on that is in the D tier is the Pocket Watch. Moderately increases chain blink window duration. Okay, so I really hate this add-on. It is so bad. It doesn't seem like it would be bad at first, but when I was using this, I felt so frustrated. It adds 0.2 seconds to your blink windows, and it's not just the first one, it's both blink windows. So what this is supposed to do is help newer players decide if they want to take a hit or not, or if they want to charge their blink. But whenever I was using this, I already know if I'm close enough to hit a survivor probably within the first instance of having that blink. Even before I'm finished with my first blink, I can see them as I'm blinking and decide if I want to hit them. So if I don't actually want to hit a survivor and I want to either save my second blink or I'm all out of blinks and I'm just waiting for me to succumb to fatigue before I can do anything else, I'm just standing there staring at the survivor with these extra seconds to my blink window. The only reason this add-on is not an F tier is because maybe some people will find good use out of it. When you're newer, that extra blink window will help you decide if you want to hit someone. But really, just don't use this add-on. You won't get used to it. You should be deciding to hit people almost immediately when you come out of a blink. Don't use this add-on. It is terrible. These D tier add-ons aren't quite bad enough to make it into F tier. They always have some sort of stipulation that makes them not as bad as those three add-ons, but definitely not good. I wouldn't use any of these add-ons normally in regular gameplay. It's pretty safe to say just avoid them unless you just want to experiment and have fun. But really, these add-ons don't really do much for you and enhance your power or make it better in any way. Now moving on to C tier, this is where the add-ons actually start to get good, start to get useful. Some of these are just maybe slightly useful or they're just not as terrible as the D or F tier. Starting off our C tier, we have the plaid flannel. What this add-on does is it allows you to see your blink locations. Now this add-on is actually pretty helpful. It'll help newer nurses decide how long to charge a blink for to get to a certain location. I recommend this add-on a lot because what newer nurse players struggle with is how long to charge and where to blink. With this add-on, it lets you see the exact location of where you're going. This add-on is also brown, so it's very common. You'll get it in your blood webs a lot, so you can rely on this add-on to be there. The only problem I have with the plaid flannel add-on is the icon they use is very, very big. It is really bright, and sometimes it can make it hard to see what's behind you in that blink location or where the survivor is if you're trying to blink right on top of them. But this add-on is just for newer nurse players. Once you get the feel of her blinks, you won't need to use this anymore. So it sits right here in the middle of the tier list. The next add-on on the C tier list is Bad Man's Last Breath. This gives the nurse undetectable after hitting a survivor for 16 seconds and has a cooldown of 60 seconds. This is another add-on that seems really good in writing, but once you take it into the game, it's not very useful. Undetectable is just not a great status effect to use on Nurse, considering she blinks through walls and you don't really have a chance to use her red stain. You don't really moonwalk, you don't try to mind game like a regular killer. So when you're using this add-on, whenever you hit a survivor first, you're gonna activate it. And then trying to get that follow-up blink is probably going to take that 16 seconds or less or more depending on how good of a nurse you are, and then it'll go into that cooldown of 60 seconds, which is a really long time. The only way maybe you can get use out of this is if you blink at someone, hit them, get that undetectable for 16 seconds, and you would give up that chase. But why would you give up that chase? Nurse is not one of the killers who gets messed up by really hard structures, say a long wall, jungle gym, and a cow tree. So in order to get really good use out of this add-on, you have to abandon chase, which is really bad. And if you get this add-on to activate on a second hit, are you going to leave that person slugged and not hook them? That's not really a good idea. Or are you going to hook them, but by the time you do that, your 16 seconds is almost up, and you're not really going to find a survivor in the time to really get use out of this. The only situation I can see this working is if somebody is going to run towards the hook for a borrowed time save and you hit them, but really that's such a niche situation. I used this add-on for a couple of games and I didn't see any sort of use out of it. Really, it's not a bad add-on. It doesn't hinder you in any way, but it's not incredibly useful, which is why it kind of sits in the middle of the tier list. There are just better add-ons to run. Next add-on is the Bad Man's Keepsake. Auras of survivor being healed or healing is revealed within 28 meters after successfully hitting them with a blink attack. This effect lasts 60 seconds. This add-on is pretty okay. It doesn't have a cooldown, so that's nice. It can work on literally all survivors if you hit them with blinks. And it lasts a pretty okay amount of time too, it's 60 seconds. It's essentially a nurse's calling for a bit after you hit someone. The cons of this add-on is if you're chasing someone and you blink and you hit them down and you put them on a hook, the chances of you getting any value out of this add-on are incredibly low because it takes you time to hook them, it takes you time to find somebody else, and it takes them time to be unhooked. And what are the chances that they're going to be healing near you? It can free up a perk slot where you don't have to use Nurse's Calling, except Nurse's Calling is the better version. I did find a situation where I had downed a survivor and I had slugged them, and I was chasing someone else when somebody else came and healed that person on the ground. Their aura was revealed to me. I already knew where they were, but that information told me that they were being healed and was able to get up. You could really just run Nurse's Calling, which is a better perk to run, and it reveals auras all the time, not just after you hit them. The next add-on is the ultra rare add-on, the Torn Bookmark. It's kind of sad to see both our ultra rare add-ons sitting in the C and F tiers, but at least they're not too overpowered to the point where they're super unfun to play against. This add-on adds one blink, but the nurse can no longer blink through solid objects. Now this add-on is very interesting. It gives you 3 blinks, which is super strong, but it limits the places you can blink. Now, you think you wouldn't be able to blink through any sort of solid object, but you can still blink over pallets, you can still blink over windows. Basically, you can blink over things that are waist level and lower. And sometimes you can get some cheeky angles through objects if you can see through them. But it only works on outdoor maps where there's a lot of stuff that's very low to the ground. Try using this on an indoor map and you will immediately hate this add-on. This add-on is also the only way that you were able to get the nurse achievement from the void she kills, where you need to blink 3 times and get a grab. So the reason this is in C tier and not a higher tier is because indoor maps can make this really painful, and around objects, a bunch of structures, she just turns into a worse blight with less charges. There is still a lot of fun to be had with this add-on, so it's not super terrible, and on outdoor maps, it is really strong. Having 3 blinks is amazing, but the stipulation where you can only blink through objects is pretty bad. The last add-on in the C tier is the Catatonic Boy's Treasure. This add-on considerably reduces extra fatigue from chain blinks. Now what this add-on says is that it considerably reduces, but it really should say that it eliminates that extra fatigue entirely. It takes away all the fatigue from your second blink, which is really good, because blinking twice gives you 0.5 seconds more fatigue. All fatigue reducing add-ons, in my opinion, aren't the best. If you could immediately blink out of your fatigue, then these would be amazing. They were back in the day when Nurse didn't have a recharge for her blinks, but also add-ons for Nurse had downsides as well as upsides, so it wasn't run that much. Fatigue reducers are usually ran in conjunction with other add-ons, such as Blink Recharge, because by themselves, they only make the animation shorter by a little bit and don't help you with your blink situation. Sure, you can get out of fatigue faster, but if you blink twice, you still have to wait that standard amount of time for your blinks to recharge to begin chasing again. Pretty much these are used for better tracking. I personally use them to see procs from Infectious Fright, the perk that makes survivors scream in your tear radius when you down someone. It'll help me look around and start slugging everyone, because I am the self-proclaimed slugging queen of DBD, and I need to do it to maintain my image. It doesn't actually do much for you, considering you have to blink twice to get use out of this add-on. It doesn't reduce the fatigue from the first blink, which would be more useful because then you could attack them quickly with your second blink, which probably is already there. And also, there are better fatigue add-ons such as Ataxic Respiration that removes fatigue from all of your blinks, not just from the second one. So this one sits in the middle of the tier list. This one might be the one that is teetering on from being in the B tier to C tier. C tier add-ons are pretty good. They're not super terrible add-ons, but they're not the super best. These are the add-ons that really don't hate, but I really don't like. They're not bad, but they're not good. So that's why they deserve to sit right smack in the middle of this tier list. Moving on to the actual add-ons that start to get really good with the B tier. The Metal Spoon. Hitting a survivor with a blink attack makes their injured sounds moderately louder for 60 seconds. This add-on is pretty good. If you hit a survivor with your first blink, then you activate this add-on on them for 60 seconds, and you can use the sound to track them easier for that follow-up second blink. Now this add-on kind of requires you to have headphones so you can actually get pretty good value out of it, but the sound survivors make when they're injured is pretty much louder. It's really nice. And it also helps when you're in fatigue, you can decide where they're going and help you get that second blink pretty quickly. This add-on is basically Strider in a bottle, which means that you don't have to run Strider when you use it. The only downside is that it doesn't work on injured survivors that have stayed injured and you haven't hit in the last 60 seconds. This also helps counter Iron Will, which can be detrimental to Nurse if you're using sound to help track them whenever you go into fatigue. I really like this add-on. I think it's pretty underrated. A lot of people would rate this pretty low on tier lists, but I think it's really good for tracking, and if you're newer to Nurse, I do recommend using this add-on. Campbell's Last Breath. After reappearing from a fully charged blink, the Nurse will immediately blink at half charge in the direction she is currently facing. This add-on is the most interesting one that Nurse has. It does require some skill to use, but if you're comfortable with her fully charged blinks and you know where it goes, you won't accidentally activate this add-on. The major problem I have with it is if you're chasing someone and you want the max range, you have no choice but to use it. But this add-on is amazing for traversing large amounts of distances. You could easily get across the whole map. It's even better if you're running an extra blink distance add-on. You can immediately act upon barbecue and chili auras or bitter murmur auras before they completely disappear, and it's super fun, it's super useful. It can take some work to really get used to. At first, I didn't even know what this add-on did. It's a little bit confusing, but once you get used to it, it is very fun, and it makes just for some interesting gameplay. This next add-on is probably one of my personal favorites to use on the Nurse. The Wooden Horse moderately decreases extra fatigue from missed blinks attacks. What this actually means is that it takes away that extra fatigue from a missed swing entirely. It doesn't just reduce it, it takes it away. which is really amazing because fatigue on a missed swing is 1 whole second. This add-on just basically removes your mistakes. It's amazing for newer players, and older players can see some use out of this. The amount of fatigue that it reduces is so much. It's the most fatigue out of any add-on. It is really underrated. The way good nurses can see some really good use out of this is to help bait out dead hards, which is a perk that really hard counters nurse. It's probably the perk that works the most well against her. You may be thinking, well, good nurses can learn to bait out dead hards with their first blink, getting close enough, making people dead hard, and then getting them with that second blink. But what if you run into a situation where you can't get close enough to survivors with that first blink and you have to use your second blink? Do you just wait and not risk that extra fatigue and hope that they dead hard? Or do you just swing and maybe they'll be exhausted on the ground, or you'll actually get out that dead hard? Another good thing about this add-on is that it's common, so it appears in your blood web a lot. I really love this add-on. If I'm just having an off day with nurse, I'll throw on one of these and maybe just the yellow blink recharge add-on. It's super good, super underrated. I love this add-on. You should love this add-on, and you should use this add-on. The last add-on in the B tier is Ataxic Respiration. Moderately decreases fatigue duration. This is the best fatigue reducer add-on, and it takes off 0.25 seconds. It makes your first blink fatigue very, very short. It is really nice. Reducing fatigue helps you track easier, especially for newer players. Also, you can run into that certain situation where you only use one blink, hit them, you'll go into a very short fatigue, and you recover your blink by the time you get out of fatigue, and you have 2 and you can immediately start chasing after survivors. It's a very deadly combo. It'll help reduce that distance survivors get from you after your first attack. However, the only thing holding this back from being an A tier add-on is for the fact less fatigue doesn't really help your situation with blink recharges. Blinking twice will still have that long recovery for your charges, and basically you can stare at them while they run out of sight. It does make it easier to track, especially on indoor maps or maps with a lot of obstacles and grass. It's still really good for tracking, but I would rather run other things. B tier add-ons are what I would classify is still pretty useful. However, these add-ons aren't the best to run on nurse, but they're not the worst, and I would still recommend some of these add-ons for newer players or even veteran players. Now, moving on to A tier, these are where the add-ons start to get really useful. Really good add-ons for nurse, and I would run these over any of the other add-ons any day. Starting off for A tier, we have the Dark Cincture add-on. Moderately reduces blink recharge time. Nurse has this mechanic where she has 2 blinks, and when you use them, they go on a cooldown and you have to wait for them to recharge. This makes it so Nurse isn't super oppressive and gives the survivors a chance to escape and capitalize on your mistakes. Add-ons like these, they take that option away. Your base recharge for blinks is 3 seconds, and this add-on is 0.6 second reduction to that recharge. This is also one of Nurse's add-ons where there is just a better version of it, so you might run that one instead, or you can stack them. Recharge add-ons are her strongest. They help in many situations, including opportunities to slug and snowball pressure, or keep on the trail of a tricky survivor. It can help reduce the duration of your chases and help close the distance faster. They're super good, and one of the add-ons that you'll probably see ran the most on her for really good reasons. The next add-on, Heavy Panting. Considerably increases maximum blink range, considerably increases blink charge time. This add-on adds 4 meters to her blink distance. Increasing charge time means that you just have to hold your blink for a little longer to get that extra 4 meters. You think that would be a big downside, but it's really not. It helps retain muscle memory of how long to charge your blinks to get a certain distance, with that added extra charge at the end for when you need to go a bit further. One of Nurse's bigger weaknesses is distance. You get enough distance on her and put a bunch of line of sight breakers in the way, it makes it hard to catch survivors and keep track of them. This add-on is great for catching up to those hold W gamers and ending chases quicker. It's amazing for traversing the map as well to keep good map pressure. This helps to act upon aura reading perks like Barbecue and Chili, Bitter Murmur. It's also another one of her add-ons that has just a better version, but it's amazing when they are both stacked. I don't think I really need to go into further explanation as to why these add-ons are in the A tier. They enhance Nurse's power, they make her stronger, they're just really good add-ons to run, and you should definitely be running these if you are newer to Nurse, or even if you just want to stomp on some survivors. So moving on to our final tier, these S tier add-ons are indisputably Nurse's best add-ons. You can ask any seasoned Nurse player what add-ons they would run if they were trying to win at all costs, and it would definitely be these two. The first add-on is Kavanaugh's Last Breath. Tremendously increases maximum blink range, tremendously increases blink charge time. So this add-on is just the better version of the heavy panting add-on. It adds 6 meters to your blink range. The extra charge time is to get that distance a little bit more, but if you're blinking that far, it's definitely worth it. Very good for keeping map pressure. This can work well with perks like Devour Hope, Make Your Choice, Tinkerer, and it's good for finding survivors early in the game when you have the least amount of map pressure as the killer. When paired with the other distance add-on, the heavy panting, you're just an insane teleporting machine. The threat is ever present. Stacking these two add-ons was called the Omega Blink back in the day. The next add-on is the Fragile Wheeze, considerably reduces blink recovery time. This is Nurse's best add-on, and it's only a green add-on. It's the better version of the Dark Cincture Recharge. The recharge reduction is 0.9 seconds, helps recover your blinks faster to get back to the chase, get going. It's less punishment for you when you mess up, and it gives the survivors less distance to get on you. Pairing the two recovery add-ons together basically makes you old base kit Nurse before her rework and the recharge system was put in place. There is a very small, slight time for recovery, but it's so super short. It's like less than a second. The two recovery blink add-ons are commonly used for DBD tournaments because they're so amazing. A lot of the times distance add-ons are banned for her, so these two add-ons are very commonly used and stacked because they're just so good and they're so strong for keeping map pressure and good for ending chases quickly. That's my tier list for her add-ons. I don't think any of these are that surprising to anyone, but I'm hoping with these explanations on how they work and what they do in game will help some of you decide what you want to run. It's such a shame that her iridescent add-ons are some of the worst, but that just means the better add-ons are going to show up in your blood web more, and you get to use them more often. So really, what add-ons should be using if you are new to Nurse? Well, number 1, I highly recommend you run both Blink Recharge add-ons. These will help reduce your mistakes and make it easier to chase survivors and get quicker downs. You can also run Fatigue Reducing add-ons. These will help you better with tracking and getting out of the fatigue where your camera's facing towards the ground, and it'll help you keep eyesight of some survivors, especially the Ataxic Respiration add-on. Wooden Horse is also an amazing add-on for newer players who don't know how to judge swings that well and you miss a lot, because that is the add-on that reduces your fatigue the most. And it's also brown. It is super common, and you'll get it in your blood webs a lot, so you can rely on this add-on to be there for you. Distance add-ons are good, but I would stay away from those as it could mess up your muscle memory with her base kit. I wouldn't start using them until you're comfortable with Nurse's power. The Plaid Flannel add-on is also really good. This will help you learn how long to charge your blinks, how far they will go, and where you're going. But you can phase this out pretty quickly once you get the hang of her blinks. It's also kind of in the way, so it's really up to you to decide whether you want to use it or not. The Metal Spoon add-on is also helpful for tracking when you go into fatigue. It kind of requires you to have headphones, but if you do, it's like built-in Strider, and it's really good. It's super underrated. Stay away from the stopwatch add-on! This add-on sucks, and I hate it. Just makes you stand there looking at the survivors where they run away and there's nothing you could do about it. And it'll mess up with your muscle memory, and it's terrible anyway. Just don't use it. So the real question is, what is the best combo of add-ons of all time? If I had to choose a build for a tournament without restrictions, without any add-ons being banned, it would be the two add-ons in my S tier, the Fragile Wheeze, the best Blink Recharge add-on, and Kavanaugh's Last Breath, the best distance add-on. This is a super deadly combo. It's very good for the extra map pressure and the ability to reduce distance survivors gain from you when you are chasing and blinking at them. This is the sweatiest combo, and you bet others would use this in tournaments if they were allowed to. Thank you guys all so much for watching and making it this far in the video. That's my tier list for all of Nurse's add-ons. I hope you learned a thing or two from all of these lengthy explanations. Where some of these add-ons belong on a tier list, some of them are my opinions, but they're mostly agreed upon by other good Nurse players. It took a long while to edit everything together, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Perhaps enough to hit that subscribe button and give the video a like too, because you're just that cool. And remember kids, stay away from the pocket watch add-on. That thing is trash!